Would you rather own 100% of a little grape or 10 to 30% of a massive watermelon? Welcome to the Nine Doors Down Show, where we discuss anything and everything about commercial real estate and investing. Let's get it.
Nine Doors Down.
Jon Lopez.
Nine Doors Down.
Hi, this is Tony Rose.
Nine Doors Down. Hi, this is Anthony Pimentel.
Educated capital raising, networking.
Nine doors down. Nine doors down.
Just call the show.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Nine Doors Down Show. This is Jon Lopez, and this is my fellow co-host,
Anthony Pimentel. What's up, guys? How's it going?
All right. I want to say thank you to everyone for tuning in. This is our very first episode with our podcast. You can catch it on Spotify, iTunes, as well as YouTube. And on this episode, we're just going to focus on our story, on how Nine Doors Down formed, what we did before Nine Doors Down, and some of the projects we're currently working on and what we look forward to in the future. How's that sound, Anthony?
Sounds like a plan, man.
All right. So before we dive in, we're just going to talk about some events that we've had just recently out here in Las Vegas. Nine Doors Down was a proud sponsor of Mahalo Hollow. It was a great community event. There was tons of performers stemming from R&B singers to dance groups, youth groups, rappers and singers. It was a great event, and it was the main host was my wife, Tony Rose. So big ups to Mahalo Hollow.
Yeah, man, that seemed like an awesome event. I missed it, but man, it felt like it threw me back in the 90s. It sounded like a really cool, like I saw all the photos and some of the videos. Good stuff, man. It was great.
Yep, it was definitely a good time. So Container Park in downtown Las Vegas, be on the lookout for the next one. Speaking of future events, actually, this past Sunday, Leo from Hospi Fund, he actually hosted Investors Lounge out in Redwood City.
Nice.
So I heard the turnout went very well. And for those that don't know, Investors Lounge is a meetup that we throw in the Bay Area. Anthony hosted down in Los Angeles. I hosted here in Las Vegas. And then pretty soon we'll be expanding out to San Diego. And we invite investors from all asset classes. It's a great chance for us to learn for one another. And, you have crypto guys there, stocks, commercial real estate guys, insurance guys. And there's no presentations, no selling. And you will also hear world-class DJs at Investors Lounge Network. But
good stuff, man. Good stuff. Keep him busy.
Yep. So let's dive right in, man. So, Mr. Anthony Pimentel, I'll give a quick little interview. Well, not a quick interview, but a quick background of my image of Anthony. So, in my eyes, Anthony's the visionary of Nine Doors Down, the school of Nine Doors Down. He could dive into his experience of like why we opened up Nine Doors Down, but whatever opportunities that happens to fall on my lap, I always make sure I run it through Anthony, make sure he puts his eyes on it. He does his due diligence. And if he gives me the green check mark, please believe I'm not looking back.
Appreciate it, man. Good stuff.
So tell me about that, Anthony. Like, what is your mindset, man? Like, I just want to know, like, I think a lot of people want to know, like, people see that you're a quick action taker. Like, what was about it your past that makes you a really quick action taker?
Man, wow. I gotta say, man, it started off like probably when I was really young. I think early, like I would say by the time I was like 12 or 13, my parents were always working. I was very kind of just independent. You know what I mean? And I'll be honest, I was not good at school. I knew right away by the time I was 12, 13, I was like, school's not my thing. I was very fortunate to, even though I had got in trouble a little bit, I was able to graduate, but, it was just something in me that I was like a doer. Like if I wanted to do something, I just go after it. You know what I mean? I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was just being independent. My parents are working, And then I always felt like I had that kind of leadership role. It was kind of weird. My friends looked up to me like, hey, what are we like, just hanging out, whether we're doing something in the weekends or what are you going to do here and there, just hanging out overall. They looked to me to kind of like guidance. And I don't know, it just for some reason interpreted to what we're doing now. You know, even though I do have a W-2 job, you know, I was still in me. I had that entrepreneur spirit. You know what I mean? And I wanted to be my own boss, and that's kind of pretty much it. And then I just kind of took it to different levels.
Yeah. So, and tell the listeners, where did you grow up?
So I was born in the Philippines. Came here when I was about 5, but we jumped around a lot. We lived in LA, like in Inglewood, and then moved to Los Angeles in the 90s. Ended up in Sun Valley, and then pretty much stayed there until I got married, and then ended up moving to Santa Clarita. But a lot of my, I guess, background was really mostly in the Valley. San Fernando Valley. Yeah.
So San Fernando Valley out in Los Angeles. That's awesome.
Right.
Now, when you first moved here to Los Angeles from the Philippines, like what was your first taste of seeing entrepreneurialism? Like, did you see it through your parents, through friends? Was it relatives?
Yeah, you know what? I was thinking back about that. I mean, it probably didn't like kick in, or I really didn't understand it because I was really young. But then actually in high school, my mom, I actually asked her this. I was like, I wasn't sure if she was the entrepreneur or if it was my dad made her do it. You know what I mean? So I actually asked her, and I was like, so basically when I was in high school, she quit her job and ended up opening a restaurant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we had a restaurant, and we lived in the Valley, but it was all the way in Hawthorne. So I don't know if they just got a great deal or whatever. And I didn't know much what was going on, but all of a sudden my parents had a restaurant. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So my mom would drive there from like literally leave at 5:30 in the morning, get there by 7. Of course, in any restaurant's a hard business. Should be there. She has to start cooking, start prepping, by the time they open. But now that I talked to her, I think my dad was the more entrepreneur and my mom was the employee. She was the worker at the time. But yeah, I think that was my first experience in high school where all of a sudden my mom quit her job. We had a restaurant, and then all of a sudden I was working in the restaurant. So yeah, that was pretty much it. Got to experience a lot of that.
And so this was in your high school years?
Yeah, high school years.
Wow. So what was your role in it? Because I know your parents probably, they made you probably donate your hours there for free child labor.
Yeah, for sure. So, man, I did everything from washing dishes, cutting the meat. Actually, what people don't know about me, I actually can cook. I was cooking a lot of the noodles, like the ready to go, like the pancit, the bihon, all those noodles for like it was pretty much like ready to order, right? And then I learned from my mom, making all these Filipino traditional dishes. People don't know that about me, but I actually learned how to cook a lot of those things. I mean, I don't do it often. I don't do it much, but I do remember how to do it.
So that was during high school.
Yeah.
And then after high school, having a Filipino background, at least with my family, was, go to college, go to school, get good grades, work for a great employer, work there for like 40 years and then get a retirement. What was your first steps out, right after high school? It may not have been real estate just yet, but you started pivoting in a direction that at least in my opinion, it's against the grain of popular culture.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'll be honest, college, I knew I didn't want to go to college. Right. So I had a choice. I think my parents, like, I think after high school, my parents still had the restaurant, for another couple years. They ended up selling it, but I was working there even after they sold it. So I was working there for a little bit. And then finally I decided I was like, I got to figure out what I'm going to do. So I had two options: go to culinary school, or I was like, or do IT, like IT work, right? So I ended up following one of my buddies who went to, this, I don't know if it's just a tech school. It was like a quick 8 month or 8 month to 2 year program. I took, of course, the least amount of time. I took the 8 month course, and I knew I wanted to just get through that really quick, learn as much as I could, and then, just get into the workforce. So I knew I didn't want to go to school anymore. I knew I just wanted to learn from experience. And that's pretty much where I started. I mean, I followed my buddy, went to IT school, got through that. And then I just started applying for jobs, get as much tech experience as I could. And then from there, kind of just slowly, I was moving jobs, and, finally landed a good job, and then, was able to get promoted and just keep moving up in my 20s.
Okay. So then in your 20s, you're moving up the ranks of the corporate ladder. What came first? Because for those that don't know, Anthony owns a very successful barbecue chain out in Santa Clarita, California. But prior to that, like, did you dive into real estate first? Did you get your first rentals, or did you open up the restaurant while having a successful career in your W-2?
Yeah, you know what? What I did first was I did the real estate stuff first. I actually got my real estate license because I knew I wanted to get into real estate, but I didn't know how. So my first thought was like, oh, let me go try to get a license. And actually, my mom and I took the class together, took the course together. So we did both get licensed. Did that for a bit, and I knew that wasn't for me. I mean, it was great. I can look at properties or whatnot. And, I think I did sell a few properties, but I knew right away when I was, I was, how do you say that? I was showing houses. I knew that wasn't for me. I knew it was not for me, driving people around, looking at, 20, 30 homes, and, nothing fits their criteria, or not. It's not what they wanted. But, yeah, that's pretty much where I started. Then I ended up getting a rental by accident. Was when my wife and I ended up moving to Santa Clarita. We had our first house, and then we ended up buying another house because it was a new build. And then that other one just became a rental, right? So kind of just had that for several years. And then the restaurant came after. That's when I was like, I would say just after the 2008 crash. Or yeah, just about after that, in my W-2 job, there was a lot of layoffs. I mean, a lot of departments. IT is fairly good because there's not a lot of turnover. But in that job that I was in that company I was in, there was a lot of turnover. With creative like designers. When the market went down, I saw a lot of people, a lot of my friends and my coworkers that I got really close with got laid off. And when I saw even a whole department just get cut out, I was like, man, I don't want this to ever happen to me and my family. And that's when it kind of just like, I better go do something about it, or, am I going to sit here and just wait for myself to get laid off? And that's when I kind of just, how do you say that? I kind of just told myself, put up or shut up. Like, I keep telling myself I wanted to open a restaurant. Am I going to do it? And then finally, I just told myself, hey, am I a talker or am I a doer? Like, this is me telling myself this, right? And sure enough, one day I was like, I was doing a ton of research. Found Dickies. It was probably one of the top franchises at the time, back in 2013, 2014. And then literally, this is what happened. My business partner now, who worked with me at that W-2 job, we had the same, like we had offices side by side. I literally went out of my office and I asked all the IT guys. I was like, "Hey man, I'm gonna open a restaurant. Who's in?" And that was pretty much it. We had a few guys that were like, "Yeah, I'm interested. I want in," but my business partner Ken was like, "I'm in," and he was the only one that put up the money, and then that's pretty much it, man.
And what year was
you
this
know,
when it opened up?
was that
What year did Dickies open
that
up?
was so we signed the contract 2014. We did not officially open till 2015, but I would say June 2014 we were already cranking away. We were doing renovations, um, pretty much getting the entire, how do you call that, the training, the business plan, all that said, I pretty much had no clue what I was doing. I knew that I could figure it out pretty much. And what I did like about Dickies was the fact that so since my mom owned a restaurant and I was around it, I knew that I did not want a chef. Like I didn't want to have to rely this business model. I didn't want to rely on the shelf because with Dickies, you just have a smoker, pretty much just throw the meat in there, take it out, cut it up, and serve. And that is one of the things that I did learn. Being in the restaurant, the short time I was in the restaurant business with my mom and just being around what she did. So yeah, sure enough, I took 2 weeks. I literally took a few weeks off, went to barbecue university, they call it, and came back, took another couple weeks and opened the restaurant. And then I was just working, right after work, I would go straight to Dickies.
That's amazing.
Yeah, man, it was
While raising a
tough.
family.
Yeah, it was probably one of the hardest things to ever do is open a restaurant for sure.
So that was 2014. How many
Yeah.
years went by before you went into your first commercial real estate deal?
Commercial, I would say I'm thinking like 2016, 2017.
Okay. Tell us about the property. Where was it located? And, was it an apartment? Was it a self-storage?
Yeah, let me go back real quick so basically around 20, so after I opened the restaurant, like maybe the year, like right after maybe another year or so, maybe late 2015 or something, I knew I was like, if I can open a restaurant, I could buy more, I can buy real estate, I can do real estate. And that's when I kind of just had the courage to start investing remotely. So I started buying smaller single family in Arizona, Indianapolis. I was buying some single families and duplexes, smaller multifamily, and I was doing the burst strategy for some time and doing some flips. So around 2016, 2017, I got into our first commercial, which is a 21 unit.
Wow. And then did you take it down with partners or you took it down yourself?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, I partnered up with one of my good friends who I got very close with in the barbecue university. He also owned a few Dickies in Woodland Hills. So it was just by accident. I shared the deal with him, and he had a 1031 exchange.
Oh, great
Yeah,
timing.
at the time I didn't even know what a 1031. I never knew how it really worked way back when. So yeah, but he had a 1031, and he had to pretty much put that capital to use, and I just happened to have that 21 unit in Indianapolis.
Oh, that's amazing. I never knew that story that you just lined up with a 1031 exchange.
Yeah, man, it was just coincidence. I was trying to figure out how I was going to get the capital because I had my capital tied up in these smaller single family and duplexes. I was actually also doing the flip, but yeah, I had no idea how I was going to get the capital.
What was some of your key takeaways or key lessons with your experience with that apartment in Indianapolis?
Wow. Man, I'm going to say
Only pick the top 2 or 3. You don't have to go down the whole list.
I would say first one, really do your due diligence on the neighborhood. Even though they're telling you it's gentrifying, it could be gentrifying forever, for years and years and years. So this property was like literally a walking distance from downtown. It wasn't a street that was a mile away from straight shot to the convention center. So there's a lot of traffic, a lot of activity, but wow, just the tenant base, the basically the demographics around the neighborhoods was rough. I mean, that was a really big lesson for me, was, thinking I can just go in there and turn the whole place around within a year or two. Although we did, get better tenants in there, but it was tough. It was tough. So I even ended up managing it myself remotely for a while.
Wow.
But I mean, that is one of the key lessons: really understand the neighborhood. Even though you got brokers you speak with that says, "Hey, it's gentrifying, it's up and coming, path of progress." Really, really do your due diligence. Work with local property managers, understand the neighborhood. But hey, I don't regret it. I mean, I learned so much there that it actually helped me not be fearful and taking on other projects.
Did COVID affect that property, the operations of it?
It actually didn't initially. When COVID happened around like I think February, March is when we closed down, or the whole government closed down. We were running. It was doing well. We were getting paid. Rent was good. It was not until I would say late December, about almost 8 months later, was when basically we hit a snag. Basically, we had some issues. It was not due to non-paying rent. It was, when COVID happened, a lot of mental issues. We had a lot more homeless hanging around our neighborhoods or in my apartments. And so my apartment is basically right on the main street. So they were using my apartments, like the patios was really nice to stay away from the cold. Like it has like a little barrier, little like cutout where the homeless can just hang out there. So that got pretty bad during COVID. And then from there, actually, I think I told you in the past, was that pretty much that's when we had more break-ins, some of our vacant units, and then we initially later on ended up having a fire. So we burned down six. It was a 6-unit building, so it was 3 buildings, right? But the one that burned down, someone broke in, tried to stay warm, and ended up burning that 6-unit.
So even despite COVID, it's good to know your demographics, or at least, a couple miles surrounding you, so like what type of surroundings and personalities are going to be around the property, would you say?
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, it's literally, just being in California, bro. I mean, just walking around downtown. I was just in downtown the other day, and I mean, we were in San Francisco, like, several months ago, or it's just, and I was in Seattle there's just a lot of homeless, just like with mental issues, or I don't know if they're on drugs or just roaming the streets. And unfortunately, my property was on that main street where there was a lot of activity, basically.
Wow, that's a great experience. So with that experience, and then to what you're doing now, so a lot of people, they see you as like for one, you could, if you wanted to put on your asset management hat, Anthony can. If you want to put your underwriting hat, Anthony can. But what is a third trait that you've pretty much acquired in the last like year or two, where it's starting to, you see yourself separating yourself from other quote unquote even action takers?
Man, I would say in the last year or so, I mean, this was never in the works. I never thought I'd see myself ever doing it, but man, raising capital, that's been kind of the thing. I don't know how it came about, and I think you helped me kind of get through that as well, because I was more of the doer, like asset manager, construction management, find the deals, talk to brokers. I pretty much had the experience of doing all that. The only thing I never did was raise capital because at the time I was more like I didn't even know I was raising capital by getting a partner. I didn't
Yeah.
I actually raised capital because I pitched him the deal, but I didn't know that. And same thing with Dickies. I was doing that, but I never realized it, right? But initially when I first started this, I was like, I could do everything myself. I could figure it out. But you can only do that for so long before you can't your money's gonna be tied up, right? It's just you gotta build a team, find partners, and then from there you can scale a lot quicker. So answer your question, man. Raising capital, taking it to a whole new level. I like I said, I never thought we'd ever be doing this, or I would be doing this. But learning so much, just with investor relations, educating our investors on pretty much putting their capital to work. It's really not sales. Like how we talk about it. It's really just about education. Whether they invest in stocks, the equity market, crypto, whatever, silver, physicals. It really doesn't matter, right? So all we do is we educate them on why we like real estate, why we like multifamily, why we like self-storage, and just talking about hard assets that, in the future, it's going to make money.
Yep. No, you've always said that, if you're a successful capital raiser, you'll hold the money bag.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that for the listeners?
Yeah, man. I mean, you just have so much more leverage in the type of market now. It's like if you're holding the money bag, or if you can raise capital, I mean, you can negotiate whatever you want, basically. If you want to be co-GP or whatever, or someone needs help and, to get to the finish line, let's say, if there's guys that are operators that are struggling to get that other 500,000 or a million, it really gives the capital raiser, like I said, who's holding the money bag, a lot of leverage to negotiate for better terms.
Well, would you also say that more opportunities will come your way, and you'll have more options and creativity because of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, and I think that's why we pivoted to, what we're doing now with the fund is exactly what you just said, was being flexible. We can get into deals that we may have not found. We just work with other operators. We work together and how we can help them out. And there's a new model of fund models where we can be LPs when we're working with larger operators who, taken down, let's say 500 million plus in assets. So we can be in any direction. We're not really just tied down to one deal.
That's beautiful. Say for one who happens to be, maybe they're an introvert. Maybe they've never had any sales experience. Maybe they've never spoken to a group larger than 10 people. What piece of advice would you give them for them to become a successful capital raiser, to at least get into their first deal?
Good question, man. I think I'll be honest, because I think I was one of those guys. To be honest, I think it's first really educate yourself on the deal, right? And the business plan for the deal. Really understand it. So, because you're gonna want to you're gonna want to be able to answer any difficult questions, right? That's first. Really educate yourself about the deal, know the ins and outs. And second, as an introvert, to get more comfortable, I would say start recording yourself. Grab your phone, iPhone, Android, whatever. Go through the investment summary and just record yourself, pitching it or just talking about it. Do that as many times as you can. And then finally, as the more times you do it, the better you're going to get, right? Because the first thing you're going to say is like, hey, I could have said it this way. It's really about the delivery. So I think those would probably be the two. And if you ever encounter any really, really tough questions from an investor, it's always hey, let me talk to my partner. I can get that information for you. You
Right.
don't have to know everything, but really, really educate yourself first on, the deal, understand what the returns are, understand and how to explain some of the measurements of real estate, how it's measured, how the returns work, those little things. It's once you get that, I mean, it's like riding a bike. It's going to be the same thing for every deal.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Now, once, so as far as like the next steps of where you see yourself, we'll just say 5 years down the line, what does the painting of Anthony Pimentel look like?
Ooh. Okay. Man, I mean, I think we're in a good path right now. We're taking down what, 4 deals a year. If we can double that, but of course, I mean, not just in the volume. We want to make sure we have really high quality investments, which we look at, right? We're very picky on the investments that we look at. So, man, I'm fine with just doubling that number every year. As far as not only just taking down deals, but also educating and making sure our investors make money, right?
Yeah.
We want to make sure we double their capital. Actually, that brings me more joys when I know that I've helped someone double their capital. Be like, hey, man, this guy was, I want to say, hey, this guy was looking out for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so in order to do so, because I know, when we're taking down deals ourselves, but if we are raising for other people's deals, how do you distinguish what's a good deal and what's a bad deal?
Let me think about that. Well, really understanding the market, right? So that's why our buy box is very, very, very specific. Um, we like to be in those growth states, population, job growth, you know, we do like that, but really for me, it's really just understanding that really the neighborhood. I gotta know the neighborhood because when someone presents me a deal, I can look at the numbers and understand right away whether they're being conservative or not. Just basically, I mean, my answer is buying in the states that we look at that we're experts in. I would say
Okay.
market experts. For me, looking at the numbers and see what we could do with the property. Sometimes things don't underwrite, but if we know the market, we know what we can get for it. As compared to someone who's maybe underwriting and who doesn't know the neighborhood as well as we do or the market, we know what we can do with the property, and that goes a long way. So
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Now I'll stretch it out even further. Say it's a property in our buy box and it's in a city that we like, but it happens to be with an operator. How do you distinguish a great operator from one where, well, you know what, maybe we'll hold off and we'll gauge you for another 18 months or so?
yeah, you know what? It's about reputation, man. Just track record. I mean, I would probably ask around and ask maybe some of their investors on how they operate, and then I really focus and ask questions a lot about their operations, how they handle certain things. Um, you know, kind of like I mean, it's kind of like we do a kind of like an interview process. Aside from just asking them the tough questions, how they respond is really how I kind of make my decision on something. And I can tell when someone's BS. You can kind of just tell when you've been in the game. Is like you can tell when someone's BSing you or not. Understanding how they answer the questions is not just the answers; it's how they're answering it. Um, Talking to some of their investors, talking to people who may have worked with the operator before, not as just a limited partner, but through other means. Um, but yeah, it's just like doing any due diligence. Talk to as many. I like to talk to as many people as I can regarding that operator or person, and then do my own due diligence on the other, deeper part of his like background checks, Not I don't do the background checks, but if there's properties they do own, I go through and search their deals. You know what I mean? And I look at the background and basically find out a little bit more about their property.
Yeah, that's great. Anthony, I could probably stay on the Zoom for like another 2 hours with you, just like how we normally do. But I
Yeah.
know, the time is limited. We're going to jump now into our lightning round. This is when I'm just going to ask you a couple random questions, and just off the bat, just whatever your first instinct of an answer would be. That's what we're going to run with. So the first one is, you're stuck on an island all by yourself, and you can only listen to one artist. Their catalog could be one album. Their catalog could be 10 albums. Who is that artist and why?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I got so many back in the '90s. I mean, there's the rap, the hip hop, like Tupac, Dre.
We got to pick only one.
I got to still go back to that Chronic album. That was
Okay.
probably one of my favorites.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great album. I mean, production by the Dog Pound. You got Dre. That was the introduction of Snoop, and that was like the peak of the West Coast G-Funk era.
Machiavelli, not Machiavelli album, I think too. But yeah, I'll go with the Chronic album.
So the Chronic. Okay. All right.
That was probably my heydays.
Okay. You like to vacation a lot. You and your wife and your two beautiful kids, you guys like to vacation. You only have one vacation that you could pick in a calendar year. Are you going to go to a beach location, or are you going to go to the mountains?
Oh man, that's easy, man. We're beach. We're tropical people, so
All right.
all our vacations are in the beach.
Okay. All right.
Majority of them.
The beach. I'll probably have to go to the beach myself.
Yeah, mountains is probably it's just during winter.
Yeah.
When we got to snowboard or do something on the snow, but most of the time, I'd say beach.
All right. And the very last one is, what do you think your superpower is? Or actually, let me rephrase that. What is your superpower?
Oh man, I don't know, man. I think it's just my instincts. I don't know, my gut feeling. To me, it's like, and reading people. I don't know, just being around people. Having employees and dealing with a lot of different personalities in the workforce, whether they're my employee or a partner or no matter what. I don't know. I think I would say just my instincts, I guess, if that's the best, that's the best answer I got.
You know what? I tend to go with your instincts as well, Anthony. So I'll take that.
Yeah, man. I mean, I base it a lot on that, my gut feeling and my due diligence, of course. But yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So, where can people find you? Your social media, your websites, email. How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, website. You know who we are. 9doorsdown.com. And my personal IG is @antdog. I think it's @DO. I think it's 0GG26. I think it's that.
And then what's the 9 Doors Down IG, and as well as the school's IG and website?
@9doorsdown on IG, on Instagram, and then @School of 9 Doors Down.
Okay.
On Instagram as well.
Awesome.
And the website, www.schoolof9doorsdown.
That's right. So 9doorsdown.com, @9doorsdown. Then you have schoolof9doorsdown.com, and also @schoolof9doorsdown.com, or @schoolof9doorsdown. But any last words for the listeners before we sign off?
Hey man, if you want something, go for it. You got to take action.
There you go.
You can't wait for anything to come to you. You got to go get it.
That's right. Well, that's it for the 9 Doors Down show with our guest and also co-host Anthony Pimentel. And on that note, we're signing off. Adios.
Peace.